All right, so welcome, guys. First panel discussion. Interesting. I actually, instead of me talking and giving the introduction, can you just very quickly give an introduction to yourselves and where you are with your program? Sankit? Yeah, yes. Go ahead.
So, hi everyone, I'm Sankit, and I am leading the Flexible Workforce Program at Maersk. We are at the very early start of the journey. Before joining Maersk, I was actually working here in Novo Nordisk and supporting Alin as well on the Go Global program. So,
thanks. Katie, go ahead.
Hi, so my name is Katie Mills. I am Head of Contingent Workforce at EY for the UK. We have a programme that's relatively well established, has been for 10 years, run through an MSP for the last 7. But actually we have opportunities at the moment to look at how we are developing that programme. Prior to EY, I was with Deloitte for 5 years, where we brought our programme in-house and kind of grew our programme by about 250% over that 5-year period. So,
thank you. Katrine?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Katrine. I'm Novo Nordisk Global Head of IT Consulting. So I'm very specialized only in IT. And not the whole global workforce. Our program started in 2018, same year as Go Global. We are predominantly set up with 3 MSPs. We have more than 1,000 consultants in Denmark, IT consultants that we are actually supporting to line of business. We are on our second VMS setup. So I can talk a bit more about VMS systems and solutions and how they need to support you. And we report directly into our CIO of Novo Nordisk. Alin?
And I'm the last one. I'm Alin. You know me already. I'm not going to introduce myself, but I'll just answer some questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So, Katrine, let's actually start with you.
Yes.
So I'm just going to throw you out in the deep end.
Yes.
So what is the scope of your program? Can you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So the scope of our program is everything under IT, DDI and IT, it's called in Novo Nordisk. So basically we are supporting all projects, all departments in global IT, both in terms of R&D, IT development, also more general IT development, and also software implementations, external workforce. That's the scope that we have in my team. Yeah.
So you're 2 from Novo Nordisk sitting here. Can you just quickly actually explain the difference? Because I'm assuming some people don't actually understand the difference between the IT consulting and the Go Global. So can you just quickly make the distinction for us?
Yes. Should I go? Yeah. So my team is sort of supporting all the platforms that Global IT owns. Those platforms are critical platforms into Novo Nordisk. You can say that they are sort of also own the suppliers that are sort of operating on the platforms. All our platforms are, of course, GXP relevant. So that's why we have a different approval process for suppliers in our setup.
And basically, as you have seen in the presentation in the morning, the freelancer services setup that we have, because Katrina and myself, we actually collaborate quite closely also in terms of suppliers, so we know exactly what happens in the market out there. But the freelancer services that we have, let's say, separately developed a couple of years ago was actually to serve the entire value chain. So that was the idea around it. Yeah, do we take commodity business, manage tail spend, and then we bring those suppliers to the table to do that one, because infrastructure and everything cannot be done solely with a freelancer setup, right? So you really need big suppliers to work on that. Mindful about the fact not only that we are GXP regulated, but we are a global company. So when you want to put and roll out a system or a platform, you have to work with a big supplier. So love freelancers, but we have to also be mindful of the scope of the project that we have.
All right. So Sankit, you mentioned that you were in the beginning of your journey. Can you just tell us what is in scope for your program?
So at Maersk, we are on a journey to become a truly integrated company, the scope of the flexible workforce program is not only freelancers, but it's the entire external workforce. So our definition of flexible workforce is actually an employee not on Maersk payroll. What we are trying to solve is actually, we used to be a conglomerate organization, and now becoming one company, one brand. We are on a journey to standardize our end-to-end process when engaging with the flexible workers across the company. And the other interesting part is also that this is not only a procurement-driven program, but this is a cross-functional driven program. We have close collaboration with our people organization, with our tech and finance organization, because the end-to-end process that we want to set up for our flexible workforce program is touching each of these business areas. So we need a close collaboration with them. As I mentioned, we are on the early start of the program, defining the roadmap, but also understanding how does our existing processes look today, because it's not about really finding the solutions, but it's about looking at the problems and challenges that we are trying to solve. So that's the key for us.
Okay. And do you know how you are going to structure that? You said you're just in the beginning. Do you already know how you're going to structure that internally, if you're saying it's a cross-functional program?
So those are some decisions we still have to make. It's still what we are actually looking into at this moment, to really define that to-be state. But what we can say is that when it comes to how the end-to-end process looks like, it is about defining, does it start from the people function area? Does it start from onboarding a freelancer through one of our HR systems, or does it start from procurement, actually defining it from when a requisition rises? So of course, those are some of the decisions we are looking into. But yeah, it's an interesting journey that we are on.
Definitely. So Katie, you're a bit further on your journey. So you've already set it up internally. Can you just put a bit of words on that and explain it?
Absolutely. So it's interesting what you say about how you're considering it at Maersk. So for us, it's very much already a cross-function kind of setup, in that I technically sit within the talent function, so within HR and resourcing, as it were. But actually, I work very much hand in glove with my procurement colleagues. So at EY, we have, like you're saying, non-permanent resource that sits under what we call external workforce. And that's split into predominantly two main categories. So one category is the managed services, so those that are supplied by other organisations. We have a statement of work in place, and we onboard individuals, resources from those organisations, purely as part of a team that are providing a statement of work type service to us. And then we have the contingent workers or freelancers. And within that group, we have two main different types. We have those who will be resource augmentation. So they will join our project teams. They will be part of an EY project. And there'll be people that we have a relationship with, that we know, that we work with time and time again, that are almost like a flexible resource, but extra member of the EY team. And then we also have freelancers who come in and do a very short bit of work for us, and then will work for multiple other clients. The managed service side, the contracts are set up by procurement. In terms of the management of those individuals, that is something that's actually an area for development for us, I think. So although we collaborate very well, one of the things that I've been brought to, so I joined EY 6 months ago, and one of the things I was brought in to do is look at this model, because it's been in existence for a while and it's working well, but can it work better? And so that's what we're looking at the moment, is there a better way of doing this? Because I believe that it would be great to work with the business and say, right, what do you need? Okay, you need this. What of all these options can we leverage for you, which will deliver the service you need? So although we're doing that reasonably well, I think there is opportunity there to do it better.
Yeah. Aline, I'm going to pick on you because I know that this is something that we also see in Go Global. Can you actually also explain some of the challenges you see on that part, or if you do see any challenges?
No.
Easy.
Okay, so just to make a point here before we move on, you can always ask questions, okay? So don't look at us that we're 4 people sitting here. We have a conversation, yeah? So please get involved. Don't let us just ramble here, okay? I actually concur with what Katie said. So what we do, and yeah, quite well, I think, here in the programs that we have, both in IT ByDesk that Katrina is representing and myself with the freelancer services, we actually listen a lot to the organization. What do they actually need? So how does it work for them? So we don't go out there and we propose a solution that doesn't work. We propose a tailored solution for their business needs. So that's why, for example, we have a couple of suppliers that I have been working with for a couple of years now, and they know very well that I always ask them about being focused on 2-3 main things that they can provide us with. Yeah, so I say I have this about focus, because freelancer market is quite big, and I really do understand that you have a lot of pool inside your, in your systems, platforms, whatever we want to call them. But it is very important to have a focus that you're going to differentiate yourself, with the other ones that you see. And you know the market. I mean, I don't need to give you lessons about that because you have a chance to actually, just search online and you will know what each one of you is doing. Yeah, me from a customer side, I already know exactly what is good and what works and what doesn't work. So we listen to the organization. We go with a tailored value proposition, also in terms of systems or technology or how does it really work. We pivot many times because we have to change things along the way, and we have a couple of experience about pivoting in this. And then, of course, we need to see how we can actually convince the business that it is a road that can be taken ahead. If I were to talk specifically about challenges, I hear a lot of it doesn't work. We actually, we will externalize our knowledge, right? So how do we do knowledge capturing with freelancers if they come in and they take some kind of, let's say, projects that they are working on? And one thing that we always talk about is that freelancers are not a competitor, they are an add-on to the team. So they bring their capability to the team in itself to actually increase the capacity and the capability. Yeah? So we always try to work with line of business with that type of mindset. The second thing that I hear is that, for example, but big agencies, big customers, big suppliers, they know our DNA. And we are very, I was talking earlier about our DNA in Novo Nordisk is quite particular. We have the Novo way, and we are really, we have to be very careful about that one. We don't want to destroy anything. So when you have freelancers, we need to ensure that they are actually respectful to our culture. And we are very, very proud of that. So with that said, what does it mean in practice? It's the fact that when we bring in freelancers, we actually train them in a Novo way. For example, if we have a bigger project with them, so they know what is it that we are doing here, how do we deal with the business? And then we mitigate that one by having also check-ins with the freelancers that are on a constant basis enrolled in our systems. You have seen in my video there, you have not seen the supplier, you have seen the freelancer, yeah? So if I am focused, I'm focused on the supplier so that we can negotiate and do the whole, whatever I'm hired for to do here. But what we really want to deploy in the business is the capability again, so the talent, yeah? So that's what we work with a lot. So if I were to sum up, big challenges will always be the DNA, knowledge, how do we actually keep it inside of the company? But we really do have a lot of experience around that. And maybe, Katrina, you have a couple of challenges that you have seen in your area as well, because you work with a very different organization around freelancers and around... Does it work?
It works.
Yes. So around freelancers and the setup that you have built there so well.
So my setup is, you can say we have defined what is critical. We have defined what freelancers can work in. There is some contractual obligations that we need to take into considerations. and that is, of course, product liability. So if freelancers come in and work on platforms, they need to have product reliability, and they also need to have insurance coverage, right? So all of this is checked, of course, before we engage with the freelancers and before we engage with the suppliers. So that is the process that we have, that we are working with.
Sankeet, Aline just talked about DNA. We're obviously a bit further in the program than you are. How do you ensure that Maersk's DNA is also kept when you actually introduce this program? I know that Maersk also has a strong one.
Yeah, it's really about connecting the program to what is our overall strategic priorities in the company. So in our program, why this is becoming a huge interest and a prioritization is because it's really enabling us to be cost conscious, to be focused on situations where our market suddenly changes, where we have to reduce cost and be more focused on savings. This is an enabler to make sure that we have a tool that can not only give us that visibility, but also plan ahead. So the whole mindset of workforce planning. So planning when there is a capacity need in certain areas. We can use the data and the insights from this tool or solution that we are looking into to make those decision makings. And then the other part that Katrina was also alluded to is that one of the key focus of our program is also the compliance aspect. So we need a program where we can, across the organization, standardize the way that we access talents, but in a compliant way, so that we are always ensuring that those talents we engage with, they have the insurance covered, they have the tax are covered. So all of these elements. But the complexity here is, of course, that a program like we are driving in Maersk, it is a program that is on a global scale. So we are talking about the whole global scope of Maersk, meaning that we are operating in more than 130 countries. So how do we actually adapt a program according to these different country legislations that are around? And that's some of what we are exploring at the stage right now.
Katie, you're nodding. Is that something you also see as a challenge?
So I'm fortunate that I cover the UK, so the global aspect isn't as much of a problem, except for the fact that, as everyone was saying earlier, we are now starting to get resource from various countries providing services to our UK firm, and also the global firm needing us to provide resources. The compliance side is a very interesting one, and it's a difficult one. We work in a highly regulated organisation at the moment. And actually with that comes a huge compliance burden. We have to onboard people to the same standards as our permanent staff if they're going to have access to our infrastructure and access to our clients' infrastructure and data and information. So that is a huge challenge to onboard people to that standard, which is a process that for permanent staff takes 2 or 3 months, and yet we need to try and do it in 2 or 3 weeks. And the way that we have I won't say got around it, we don't not do it, is we do it for everyone. But the point is that we then are getting better and better at managing those resources, so that then once they're in the firm and they've been screened, when they're coming to the end of a project, putting them onto another project. So we don't need to continue to go out to the external market and go through that rather onerous, to be honest, onboarding process, which is difficult. And people, they come to an EY thinking, surely it can't be as hard to get onboarded onto EY as it is to a bank or a government organisation. No, it's harder because we are supplying people to banks and to government organisations. So hence our way of managing it is then...
Aline and I are sitting here nodding because we
trying
really
to
understand
reuse
what you mean.
resources time and time again, which of course is also critical for us, because what we can't do is just body shop. We're not going to be able to grab some off LinkedIn and then give them to a client and charge them an extra fee. That doesn't work. It has to be someone who is on a par with an EY employee, hence someone who's worked with us time and time again. It might be someone who is an alumni, someone who's an ex-partner, and so on. So that's how we at the moment are cutting down the onboarding time.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I can see hands coming over.
We have a question
so
here.
Go ahead.
Please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nana. Thank you for interesting talks here. I have a question because it's spot on, a big challenge. How much effort will you put into freelancers, right? Because you need the resources very much. And often it's very difficult to find resources. Mm-hmm. You need to educate them. You need to cut down on the education, but you still need them to be part of the company for a while and then not for a while after it has finished. So how do you find the balance in the education looping in a regulated GXP world? And then, with a balance between how much education do I need, how much culture do I need to understand, and how long will it take? I mean, if you have like a freelancer for 3 months, how much effort do you put into it? That's the question.
Yeah. Who wants to go first here?
I could start. I think the education is very important when engaging with freelancers. Especially because of all of these compliance challenges that are around. One of the things that we are actually working on is to define a policy on how to engage with flexible workers, which includes freelancers. And some of the wording we are putting there is the period that we have a flexible freelancer hired. We don't want to keep them for too long because there is also these risk of co-employment issues and so on. So, but we cannot only rely on a policy. I mean, that's also where we need a system to support us to be able to flag. Oh, you have a freelancer that is approaching 12 months time. It is time for you to reconsider. Do you want to offboard the freelancer, or do you want to, make changes so that we make and educate our hiring managers? Because, for example, in Maersk, our biggest asset in general, our mindset is our customers, and that's in flexible workforce program. It is our hiring managers. So we need to be able to educate them, but also to listen to what their needs are.
Katrine, can you put some words on that as well? You're obviously in a more specific, but is that something you also see?
Yeah, so there are two types of onboarding in my setup. We have the onboarding where we are onboarding consultants and freelancers directly into work on our platforms. We sort of do the same onboarding as you do for own colleagues. And then there's the freelancer onboarding where you onboard for 3 months, right? It's two different set of onboardings. And when we do onboard for platforms, we sort of have our partners to onboard. So part of the onboarding is typically 2 weeks. First part of the onboarding will be done by the brokers, so by the consulting companies. The second part of the onboarding, which is directly into the program that they are going to work in, will be with the hiring manager. So yes, a good and thorough onboarding is really needed.
Definitely. Were there other questions? I can see hands coming up here.
Yes. Hi, my name is Sophie Golding. I'm an HR business partner in Tryg Insurance. One of the things I'd like to hear your perspective on is actually how to be a sustainable employer for also freelancers, because I think sometimes we forget that these are also people with mental health issues, engagement issues, all kinds of things. How do we actually handle that in this more freelance world where we're not just being transactional about it?
Good question. Aline, go for it.
Oh, that was brilliant.
That's actually a very good question, and we have reflected on that because we have a model in Novo, which is a hypercare model, where we actually, basically, the freelancers will receive initials and computers, as Katrine was saying. So we do have those types of consultants that are working on very specific projects. One way of looking at it is to give the right projects for those people and not more than that. We have always check-ins with the suppliers where we ensure that we have a policy actually in Novo where a certain amount of time can be spent on a project that belongs to Novo. So Novo will not be a 100% business of a freelancer. That's not possible. So basically from our end, we make everything sure not to occupy the whole time of a freelancer with the projects that they have within Novo Nordisk. Yeah? And then the liability also goes at the supplier side, with whom we actually work to make sure that they take care of their freelancers. And I actually think Tassos had a very good point, and I would hope that all of the suppliers that are in the room got inspired by that. I think that the community part is really a big differentiator in the transactional world that we live in. Honestly, again, I'll go back to the video. We did not show suppliers, we showed freelancers, yeah, because that's what matters. Yeah, we work with them on a daily basis, so we really hope that they are also, we ensure in our conversations and processes, policies, that they are well respected in the work that they do and also paid fairly. Yeah? So we don't do the whole, we do look at cost efficiency, obviously, because that is the value proposition that was offered from the beginning, right? So it's not something that we decided on. So that's the business model that they have as a company. But definitely we follow through all of the parameters. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Katie, could I ask you a question? John Younger. And I'm sorry, did I cut in front of somebody else? No, we have a... Okay. Katie, if you take a look at your industry, I'd ask you to sort of look ahead 3 to 5 years. Right now, you've got direct competition from many organizations that are creating platforms for independent management consulting. We're also seeing that organizations like PwC and Accenture and some others are really cutting back and see freelancers as a core part of their proposition, not an augmentation of their proposition. The theory is that over the next 5 years, what we'll see is about 70-30. 70% full-time, 30% contingent, many of those contingents being former partners, former alumni, etc. Is that the likely arc for you guys as well?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We are all seeing, I think, within our permanent workforce, the desire for everyone to have more flexibility. I saw a steady stream at Deloitte, and I'm already seeing it at EY, of people deciding that actually they don't want to become a partner. They don't want that type of role, and actually they really enjoy being an SME in their area, and they like the flexibility and the choice of being a contractor. So yes, I would agree. I think from a personal choice perspective, I can see that market getting bigger. And from an EY perspective, it gives us flexibility. But actually, coming back to your question, the lady to your left as I'm looking at you, it comes down to managing expectations as well. So one of the things that we are trying to do at the moment is look at what are the core skills that we're going to need on a regular basis and wrap our arms around those communities of people so that then they know they're part of the EY ecosystem, and therefore we'll keep coming back to you, and you can potentially rely on us for a certain amount, certainly not 100%, but a certain amount of your work time and time again. And then accept that actually outside of that nucleus, we're probably going to need to go to market, and that's where for us suppliers are absolutely invaluable to give us expertise that we don't have or other external resources, but wrapping our arms around those people to manage their expectations and tell them you can expect to stay working with us or to get work from us, I think is important, rather than saying, oh, you're on our platform and then never hearing from us again. So that for me is also really key.
One last question and then we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, my question is to Sankit. You mentioned that your flexible workforce not only includes freelancers, but also pretty much any external, right? So I'm curious, and you also want to do it globally. I'm curious because this, I can guess, is a lot of workforce, right? So when you look in the future, I want to know more about what's how would you manage that? And do you have a limit in terms of scope, in terms of, okay, we will not do IT consulting or management consulting, or do you want to include all external workforce in your program?
That's a good question. So we have a North Star, as you can say, which is having a total visibility of our workforce, both internal and external. But there is also a way that we need to mature our program. So if we have to categorize some of these flexible workers, our management consultancy category, which I would say are more defined as more the strategic kind of spend or resources, that might not be something that we would start off with in the first phase, because we need to start off with a minimal viable product. So that could be that we start off with the freelancers and the temporary labor scope, but it's really about maturing the program. So yes, we have the full scope of external workers, but it's about how do we define the phases of the rollout, and this is going to take several years to succeed, and we also need to educate our organization to be, the mindset also needs to change along the way. So we can't just go all in from the beginning. And we have these conversations, also getting the insights from other companies, from other industry experts, where we are getting some learnings, also from hearing from you, Katie, from EY's journey, and also from Novo Nordisk. These are some of the learnings we are trying to also accommodate when we are planning this rollout. But it's also important to say that we are also a truly global company, so we also need to reach at some point that total workforce management at the end.
Perfect. I had like 10 questions written down. I asked one, so thank you guys. That made my life easy. Sankit, Katie, Katrine, and Aline, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see Barry's waiting there, so...